Good morning, everybody. My name is Alicia Nodman, and I am the author of the book, Don't Be a Stranger, Creating Connections and Memorable First Impressions in Everyday Life. It's available currently on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, retail stores. Please do check it out. I wanted to hop on today and do a brief video on tips for a successful book signing. So I just had my first book signing at a coffee shop here in town in Scottsdale, Arizona. And it was absolutely magical. I couldn't have imagined a better experience. And I'll tell you what really helped me make it a success is the morning of, I decided last minute, why don't I watch a few YouTube videos, make sure there's no last minute things that I'm forgetting. And I cannot tell you how helpful that was. I watched about 6 different videos, and each video gave me a couple new things to think about as far as what I wanted to make sure that I offered at my book signing. So what I thought I would do is consolidate the really great tips that I kind of piecemeal together from all these different videos and put them in one, and just share a couple of tips for anybody else out there who might be considering doing an author signing. So I'm gonna try to make this very brief. I've got my list next to me so that I can stay on track. First of all, bring your book, right? Bring your book. And it's interesting, there was a young lady who told the story of how she was doing her book signing at a Barnes & Noble or a retail bookstore, and so just assumed they would have her book, right? That of course they would have the book. Well, apparently the bookstore had forgotten to order her books, and so folks would come get signings, but there were no books. So thankfully, I already know, I've checked with the bookstore that I'm going to be at on January 11th, Barnes & Noble in North Scottsdale from 9 to 2. So if any of you watching are in the Scottsdale area, please pop in, say hello. I'd love to meet you in person. But I already have checked, and I do know that they have books in stock. With that said, I'm still going to bring backups just in case. You always want to hope for the best, wish for the best, be prepared for the best, right? So have a book. Have several books kind of scattered out on the table, right? Almost like a display. And on Amazon, I went and I purchased these little book stands. And so your book will literally just sit on the book stand. And so that sits at one end of the table. And you can kind of, I would recommend less busy. The table I had was rather small, so I had to be somewhat strategic in how I scattered things, but even that was really good for tips moving forward, because what I've decided is in the future, just having a small little bowl, tiny little crystal bowl. And what I'm gonna have inside the bowl, what I had at this last event, I had some table scatter. And what do I mean by table scatter? Also on Amazon, you can order awesome little jewels, these little like crystal gems, very inexpensive. I think they're under $7 or $8, $10. You can get them in different colors. So for my event, as you can see, my book is red and black. So I ordered red and black scatter. I also have a skincare business where my colors are oftentimes crystal and blue. So I've got lots of see-through crystals and blue crystals. So kind of stay consistent with your theme. I think that makes it fun. But so I had table scatter, little gems in here, as well as little candies, little chocolates. Like it's just something that would maybe attract people to want to come by. I also have some engraved pens from my skincare business, so I just brought them out because they have the website that would route people over to my business website that kind of identifies all the different things I do. So have some sort of a marketing giveaway. Somebody on a video recommended bookmarks with your particular book information. I think that's a great idea, and I bet Vistaprint would be really, really good for that. Another thing that I learned the hard way was when I first got there, somebody walked in and out of the coffee shop and stopped by the booth just to support me as a local author. Was like, I'll buy a book, but she didn't have cash. And I hadn't thought about that because I thought, oh, my book's only $12, it's fine. Like I didn't even really think that, I should have a credit card reader. And so I missed out on that sale. So lesson learned, really valuable, right? So have an app called Square or some other app that can process credit cards. The irony is I actually had Square. I didn't realize you can manually enter the credit card. I thought I needed the little swipe. There's a little white thing you can plug into the end of your phone, the little earphone jack, and you can swipe cards with it, and I just don't know where mine is. I had it from before and I just have misplaced it. Thankfully, the coffee shop owner or manager actually had one that he was willing to share. So I just am so appreciative of him, but that saved me the rest of the event because there were a number of people that wanted to pay with credit. With credit, of course, you may need to add $1 or $2 to cover the transaction fee, but folks seemed fine with that. Also have cash ready to go from the beginning of the day in a manila envelope or somewhere safe in case you need to make change, because there were a lot of people who had bigger bills, and so I was prepared to be able to give them change, or of course they could go into the business, but the fewer steps that you can add to their burden, I think the better. Okay, so we talked about the book stands. Have pens that work. One of the ladies in the videos was talking about how people try to get really fancy with pens, glitter pens and fun pens, but if the pen doesn't work, it's really not very useful. So, you know, have pens that are really just, they smooth the flow. I think it helps to have several pens on the table so you can have several things moving at once. It wasn't unusual for people to hover at the table and stop and have conversation, which I love, because my book, Don't Be a Stranger, is all about talking to strangers. It's all about tips for creating connections with others, tips for making it fun and easy to talk to strangers and have some of those random conversations. And so I think that having space for that sort of thing is really helpful. Okay, excuse me for just a second. Tablecloths. So depending on where you'll be, you're gonna wanna probably have tablecloths. It just kind of helps the aesthetic. I had picked up a black and red tablecloth just in case. And I actually ended up positioning the tablecloths so that they looked slanted, very much like the cover of my book. And so I think that was a really cool touch. And it was just very attractive and catching to the eye. So let's see, business card holders. This was another one I hadn't thought about for my event, so I have since ordered these on Amazon, just a few dollars to, of course, hold your business cards. Post-it notes. Post-it notes were also very helpful for a couple reasons. One of the videos suggested basically marking certain pages in your book with passages that you may end up wanting to read. In case somebody says, oh, well, can you read to me from your book? Can you share something with me? And you want to be kind of ready to go with that. Another thing that I used those Post-it notes for, though, excuse me for 1 second, but another thing that I used the Post-it notes for is having people spell their name the way they would like me to dedicate the book. And so saying to them, could you please spell your first name the way you would like it written in the book? And then making sure you actually note that spelling and use that spelling when you're writing your dedication. And I will say, I really had a lot of fun with the dedication because, you know, my book is all about first impressions. And so what I wrote in the dedication on the cover of the book is I wrote, "Dear so-and-so, one of the first things I noticed about you was," and then basically don't be a stranger, right? And so it was a really cool way to let people know what stood out to me about them. And in the cases where people were gifting the book, I asked them, okay, well, think about the person you're gifting it to. What's the first thing you remember noticing about them? And so then in the book, I would write, "Dear so-and-so, your friend or partner or whomever, you know, Alex, for example, tells me that the first thing they noticed about you was, and that one of the things they still love about you is." And it ended up being such a cool experience and interaction, and really ended up being quite romantic, actually, in some of the cases, what I got to catch in terms of the exchange that I was having with people and their words. Okay, we're almost at the end. So let's see. Oh, I ended up giving a free copy of my book to the manager of the bookstore, who was so gracious to let me basically walk in and say, "Can I do a book signing here?" And he didn't even flinch. He was super supportive and wonderful and so helpful during the event as needed. And so I just thought it was a lovely way to gift him and say, thank you so much for just kind of taking a chance on me, and I hope that you enjoy this book. Also during the event, I had a copy of the book inside over by the area where people would order their coffee, which ended up, of course, being another just kind of eye-catching moment. Somebody had suggested putting out copies on books throughout the coffee shop. I think that would have been a great idea as well. I would just be hesitant of like spillage or, you know, not having somebody in there to kind of keep an eye on that. But yeah, those are basically the tips. Oh, one last one. I also on Amazon purchased stands. Now this isn't the flyer, of course, for my book, it's for my skincare business, but there is a flyer that I created that basically is the entire cover of my book on one page, right? So there's one sheet that shows both sides, and so I actually put that in the plastic stand and then put the plastic stand sideways. And so that was a wonderful way as well to just kind of tie everything together, keep it down, you know, keep it all on one theme, keep it all related to the book, and again, just to kind of attract people and allow them the opportunity to read what's on the back of the book, the description, the author description, and that sort of thing. And more than anything, smile, be lovely, be welcoming and warm, because you want people to be drawn to your table. And I'll tell you, I really didn't call people over. I really just greeted them as they went in and out of the coffee shop. I was positioned perfectly just to kind of be a greeter. but my warmth and friendliness, I think, and then as people gathered, it kind of built up curiosity, and then you just have conversations. And the coolest part, by the way, was as I was doing dedications, because I was writing a few sentences, it was taking me a few minutes, but as I was writing a few sentences, the folks that were visiting with me started getting to know each other and talking, and that was probably one of my favorite parts of what came away from the event. So I'm so looking forward to doing it again. I hope this video helps some of you have a really successful event. And again, if you're in town January 11th, 2020, depending on when you're watching this video, please join me at the Barnes & Noble. Say hello, introduce yourselves. I'd love to meet you all. Have a fantastic day and weekend, and Happy New Year. Bye.